Season 1 commences with John Dutton, the formidable owner of the Yellowstone Ranch, secretly battling a severe illness that forces him to confront his mortality and the enduring legacy of his family. John initially envisions his eldest son, Lee, the child most steadfastly loyal to him and the ranch, as his successor. While managing the ranch, John faces constant opposition from Thomas Rainwater, chief of the Broken Rock Reservation, who is determined to reclaim the Yellowstone land for his Native American community, and also from land developer Dan Jenkins, who schemes to acquire and develop the ranch's extensive acreage. Casey Dutton, John's youngest son, lives estranged from the family on the Broken Rock Reservation with his Native American wife Monica and their son Tate. However, when the simmering conflict between the Duttons and Broken Rock violently erupts, leading to Lee Dutton's tragic death at the hands of Monica's brother, Robert, Casey retaliates by killing Robert. John is compelled to orchestrate a cover-up of Robert's death to shield Casey, though the relationship between father and son remains fraught with unspoken tension. Having killed his brother-in-law, Casey's marriage to Monica becomes deeply strained, as she fears his capacity for violence will irrevocably affect their son. With Lee gone and adversaries encroaching on Yellowstone, John must rely on his other children for support. His daughter, Beth, a sharp financier, returns from Salt Lake City to manage Yellowstone's complex business dealings, particularly focusing on thwarting Dan Jenkins' attempts to seize their land. Beth also struggles with alcohol and substance abuse, and resumes her tumultuous, long-standing romance with Rip Wheeler, a loyal ranch hand John took in during Rip's troubled adolescence. Jamie Dutton, an attorney, strives to be the family's moral compass, yet he lacks his father's complete trust. Jamie feels increasingly marginalized, especially with Beth's return, with whom he shares a deeply antagonistic history. When Montana's governor, Linnell Perry, offers Jamie the position of Attorney General, John Dutton presents his son with a stark choice: politics or family. Jamie ultimately opts for a political career, leading to his exclusion from the Yellowstone family business. In response, Jamie chooses to collaborate with a journalist investigating allegations of murder and manipulation linked to the Dutton family and the Yellowstone Ranch. Elsewhere, Rip Wheeler, as the ranch foreman, leads the branded ranch hands, all fiercely committed to protecting John Dutton's interests, often through illicit means. An old acquaintance of John's asks if the ranch can provide a place for his grandson, Jimmy, a young man with a criminal past needing a fresh start. Rip and the other ranch hands, including Lloyd and Colby, take Jimmy under their wing, teaching him the ways of the ranch and ultimately offering him a sense of belonging and purpose. As the season concludes, Thomas Rainwater and Dan Jenkins form an uneasy alliance, united by their shared animosity towards John Dutton, and they lay plans to construct a casino adjacent to Yellowstone's border. Casey, realizing that Monica and Tate might be safer and happier without his volatile presence, returns to the Yellowstone Ranch alone, committed to protecting it as a legacy for his son. Casey aligns himself with Rip and the ranch hands in their unwavering support of John, participating in the capture and symbolic hanging of Dan Jenkins, as a warning against his relentless antagonism. Season 2 opens with John Dutton learning he doesn't have cancer, but rather a severe ruptured ulcer. Realizing his demise isn't as imminent as he believed, John redoubles his efforts to secure his land and promote the Dutton family legacy. John actively works to mend his relationship with his estranged son Casey, entrusting him with the role of ranch foreman, a decision that stirs resentment in the ever-loyal Rip Wheeler. John actively works to mend his relationship with his estranged son Casey, entrusting him with the role of ranch foreman, a decision that stirs resentment in the ever-loyal Rip Wheeler. John achieves a full reconciliation with Casey and confides his intention to eventually leave Yellowstone to him. Following this, Casey reconciles with Monica, and she consents to move to the ranch with their son Tate. Meanwhile, Jamie Dutton's bid for Attorney General loses all financial backing due to John's public disapproval. Although Thomas Rainwater extends an offer of support, Jamie decides to withdraw from the race in an attempt to regain his family's favor. Deeply regretting his betrayal in leaking family secrets to a journalist, Jamie murders the reporter and returns to the ranch, a defeated man seeking redemption. Concurrently, John Dutton, Chief Thomas Rainwater, and the surprisingly still alive Dan Jenkins are forced into a strained alliance to counter the schemes of the Beck brothers, ruthless real estate magnates, aiming to seize control of the entire valley. The Beck brothers collude with a white supremacist faction to wrest Yellowstone from the Duttons through any means possible. They dispatch men to brutally assault Beth, but Rip intervenes heroically, saving her life. They then send armed assailants to eliminate Dan Jenkins, who is not as fortunate as Beth. The Becks also mastermind the kidnapping of Tate Dutton, plunging the Duttons into a state of war. The enraged Duttons and their ranch hands systematically eliminate a significant number of the white supremacists, and in a climactic confrontation, John and Casey collaboratively kill the Beck brothers. As the season draws to a close, John emotionally amends his will to include Rip, formally acknowledging him as a member of the Dutton family. Meanwhile, Casey is joyfully reunited with his kidnapped son Tate, bringing him safely back to Yellowstone. Season 3 sees the Dutton family attempting to heal from their recent traumas and find a semblance of normalcy on the ranch. John Dutton resigns as livestock commissioner to placate Governor Perry after the violent events involving the Beck brothers. This allows him to embrace a semi-retired lifestyle, teaching his grandson Tate the intricacies of ranch life. Jamie is appointed the new livestock commissioner, though his father remains wary of his motive. When Jamie is subsequently offered the interim attorney general position, Casey Dutton steps in to become the new livestock commissioner, though his father remains wary of his motive. When Jamie is subsequently offered the interim attorney general position, Casey Dutton steps in to become the new livestock commissioner, adding to his responsibilities as foreman of the Yellowstone Dutton. Casey's wife Monica, meanwhile, deepens her connection to her Native American heritage, and even begins to forge a tentative partnership with Chief Thomas Rainwater. The deep-seated animosity between Jamie Dutton and his sister Beth is revealed to stem from his handling of Beth's teenage abortion years prior. Beth had sought Jamie's help, and he took her to a clinic where the procedure resulted in her sterilization, rendering Beth unable to have children. Upon learning this truth in the present day, John Dutton is devastated and furious with Jamie, further fracturing Jamie's already strained relationship with the family. After discovering he was adopted, Jamie seeks out his biological father, Garrett Randall, a man who had murdered Jamie's mother when Jamie was an infant. Beth Dutton's financial work with Schwartz and Meyer and her strong ties to the Dutton Ranch place her in direct conflict with Market Equities, a powerful firm intent on acquiring the Yellowstone Ranch and surrounding lands to construct an airport and ski resort. A formidable representative from Market Equities is tasked with closing the deal ruthlessly, offering the Duttons a staggering $500 million for their property or threatening a protracted legal siege designed to bankrupt. However, it's not all conflict for Beth, as she rekindles her romance with her longtime love, Rip Wheeler, and the two become engaged. Rip, meanwhile, continues to expertly manage the ranch hands and recruits Teeter, adding a resilient woman to their ranch. Teeter quickly integrates into the group and develops a relationship with Colby, while Jimmy begins a romance with Mia, a barrel racer who inspires him to pursue his dream of becoming a rodeo star. After Jimmy sustains severe injuries in a rodeo accident, John Dutton agrees to cover his medical expenses on the condition that Jimmy abandons rodeo and commits to being a ranch hand, but with Mia's persistent encouragement, Jimmy defiantly gets back on a horse. The last image of Jimmy in the season is him being thrown from the horse and lying unconscious, his fate uncertain. Rip and the ranch hands are forced to confront Wade Morrow, a neighboring rancher and an old adversary of John. Wade and his son Clint repeatedly escalate their conflict with the Duttons, culminating in an attack where they nearly trample Colby and Teeter to death. Unbeknownst to the Duttons, Wade and Clint are secretly acting on instructions from Rourke Morris of Market Equities, who hopes to provoke the Duttons into illegal retaliatory actions that would strengthen Market Equities' legal position to acquire the ranch. The provocation eventually succeeds, as Rip and his crew capture the Morrows, killing both father and son. As Season 3 reaches its climax, the struggle between the Duttons and Market Equities intensifies. Market Equities CEO Willa Hayes orchestrates Beth's dismissal from Schwartz and Meyer, and manages to persuade Jamie and Governor Perry that the proposed airport and ski resort are in Montana's best interests. Yet this does not signify a clear victory for as John Dutton remains resolute in his fight to protect his land, even forming an alliance with his former adversary Thomas Rainwater, to halt the development via a lawsuit. Rainwater recognizes that if an airport and resort are built, his tribe's chances of ever reclaiming the land would vanish, making an alliance with John mutually beneficial. Unsatisfied with a prolonged court battle, Willa authorizes Rourke to take any measures necessary to finalize the development deal. The season ends with coordinated assassination attempts on the Dutton family. Casey is attacked by gunmen in his office, a bomb detonates in Beth's former office building, and John is shot down on the roadside while assisting a woman with a flat tire. In Season 4 of Yellowstone, all the Duttons miraculously survive the violent attacks, though some bear more severe injuries than others. Unaware of the true orchestrator behind the assaults, Rip exacts revenge on Rourke Morris, the Duttons' most visible current antagonist, by killing him with a rattlesnake. While John recovers in the hospital, Beth encounters Carter, a teenage boy orphaned after his father's fatal overdose. Beth brings Carter to the Dutton Ranch, where she and Rip unofficially take him in. Carter's troubled youth reminds Rip of his own upbringing, and how John had provided him a lifeline. Beth, meanwhile, secures a position with Market Equity's new president, Caroline Warner, intending to sabotage the firm's efforts to seize her family's land from within. Also recuperating is Jimmy, who, despite stern warnings from John and the advice of medical specialists, continues to pursue dangerous rodeo competitions. John sends Jimmy to train at the 4-6's ranch in Texas to mature as a cowboy. There, Jimmy meets and falls deeply in love with Emily, a veterinarian. When Jimmy returns to Yellowstone with Emily as his fiancée, John gives his blessing for Jimmy to permanently relocate to Texas with his new love, and even settles Jimmy's substantial medical debt. Elsewhere, John and Case begin a brutal campaign to eliminate the various contract killers involved in the attempts on the Duttons' lives, hoping to uncover the mastermind. Thomas Rainwater aids John by identifying the man who purportedly organized the hits, a jailed criminal named Rick. John instructs Case to request Jamie's assistance, in his capacity as Attorney General, to access Riggins' confidential prison records, aiming to gather more information. This also serves as a test of Jamie's loyalty. If he hesitated to help, it would suggest his involvement in the plot. Jamie agrees to assist Casey in investigating Riggins, and the findings deeply disturb him. Riggins' former cellmate was Garrett Randall, Jamie's biological father, who had served a 30-year sentence for murdering Jamie's mother. Jamie has been forming a tentative bond with Garrett, but the revelation of his violent past and connection to the plot against the Duttons causes Jamie to profoundly question their relationship. Just as Jamie is about to confront Garrett about his nefarious actions, his ex-girlfriend Christina reappears with a child she claims is Jamie's son. Jamie cautiously reconciles with Garrett and embraces his newfound family, even supporting Garrett's ambitions to run for governor of Montana. The incumbent governor, Linnell Perry, informs John of her intention to run for the U.S. Senate, and her plan to endorse Jamie as her successor. John, who shares an intermittent romantic relationship with Perry, warns her about Jamie's untrustworthiness, and declares his own interest in running for governor. Consequently, Governor Perry publicly endorses John, which enrages John. Also forms an unexpected connection with Summer Higgins, an animal rights activist. Beth manipulates Summer's group into protesting at a Market Equity's owned site, and then tips off the police, leading to a violent confrontation. This creates a public relations disaster for Market Equities, prompting Caroline to fire Beth and vow to destroy her family and have her imprisoned. The violent protest also results in Summer's arrest and a lengthy prison sentence for assaulting an officer. John persuades the judge to reduce Summer's sentence, but is furious with Beth for her reckless tactics, threatening to banish her from the ranch. After Beth offers a heartfelt apology, John forgives her. Meanwhile, Case, Monica, and Tate move to their own small ranch, and Case grows closer to Thomas Rainwater and his advisor. Although Monica discovers she is pregnant, her and Case's relationship becomes strained when Avery, a former Yellowstone ranch hand, reappears and declares her love for Case. When a wolf appears on Case's new property, Mo encourages him to undertake a Native American ritual. After 4 days of fasting and solitude in the wilderness, Case experiences a vision that he interprets as a sign of the impending end of his relationship with Monica. As the season concludes, Beth and Rip have an impromptu wedding before Beth executes her plan to safeguard her family and their ranch. Having uncovered Riggins' link to Garrett and by extension Jamie, Beth confronts her adopted brother, threatening to either publicly ruin him or kill him if he doesn't comply with her demands. Consequently, Jamie kills his biological father, Garrett, and disposes of the body, all while Beth documents the crime with photographs. Beth then returns to the ranch and informs John that they no longer need to worry about Jamie's loyalty, as she now effectively controls. John Dutton is sworn in as the new governor of Montana, and his initial act is to appoint Beth as his chief of staff, tasking her with officially dismantling Market Equity's land development plans. Caroline Warner is incandescent with rage over these developments, and now Senator Linnell Perry cautions John that Market Equities will not concede easily and will intensify their efforts to acquire the Dutton land. While striving to increase his popularity as governor to fortify his stance against Market Equities, John further strengthens his alliance with his previous adversary, Thomas Rainwater, and publicly denounces a pipeline project planned for the Broken Rock Reservation's land. Elsewhere, Monica goes into premature labor and, against Casey's better judgment, attempts to drive herself to the hospital. Tragically, she is involved in a car accident that results in the loss of their baby, whom she and Case had named John. As Case grapples with his spiritual visions that seem to foreshadow the end of his relationship with Monica, he supports his wife through her grief, and they find themselves growing close. Meanwhile, Rip and Beth continue to raise their adopted son Carter, teaching him the values and realities of ranch life. When wolves begin preying on cattle at the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, Rip and the ranch hands take measures to eliminate them. Unfortunately, the wolves are discovered to be officially tagged and protected as part of Yellowstone National Park, compelling Rip and his team to conceal their illegal actions. John then enlists Summer to assist him in navigating the legal challenges arising from the wolf killing. Beth initially harbors resentment towards her father's new, younger associate, but Rip encourages the two women to find common ground, leading to a grudging respect between Beth and Summer. The ranch's dairy cattle suffer from contamination, and John is forced to send them to Texas to ensure their survival. This undertaking proves to be immensely costly and time-consuming, and Rip leads the cattle drive along with several of his fellow ranch hands, including Walker, who shares a poignant farewell with Case. Casey remains at the Dutton Ranch, as his duties as governor increasingly pull him away from ranch operations for extended periods. With around half the ranch hands departed, John officially places the Yellowstone Dutton farm under Casey's stewardship. In the meantime, Beth uncovers that Jamie has a child, a fact he has concealed from the family, and she vows to have his parental rights revoked. Jamie embarks on an affair with Sarah Atwood, a representative of Market Equities, who manipulates the embittered Jamie into using his position as Attorney General to find a loophole that would permit Market Equities to proceed with their Yellowstone land development. When John and Beth leverage their political power to have the Yellowstone Dutton farm protected as a public trust under state authority, Market Equities persuades Jamie to call for John's impeachment, offering their backing to position him as Montana's new governor. When Beth threatens Jamie with the photographic evidence of him murdering his biological father, Jamie remains defiant and threatens to expose the entire Dutton family's history of killings and body disposals at a secret location known as the train station. Realizing she has lost her leverage over her brother, Beth reluctantly suggests to John that they may need to eliminate Jamie. Aware that his life is in grave danger, Jamie makes his own arrangements to hire professionals to assassinate his family, and assassins contracted by Sarah Atwood murder John Dutton, staging it to appear as a suicide. John's children are devastated by their father's death, and despite the staged scene, Beth is convinced that her brother Jamie is responsible for this horrific act. As Rip and the ranch hands guide the cattle to the 4-6's ranch in Texas, where they reunite with Jimmy, Rip learns of John's murder and races back to Yellowstone to comfort Beth as she swears vengeance on Jamie. Jamie is secretly distraught over John's death and regrets his part in his father's killing. He finds his only solace in Sarah, who urges him to seize this moment and finally claim the Dutton family empire for himself. Jamie persuades Montana's new acting governor, Stephen Rawlings, to advance the plan to seize the Yellowstone land using eminent domain, allowing Market Equities to develop it, much to Senator Linnell Perry's profound disappointment. Meanwhile, Case, Monica, and Tate try to forge a new beginning for their family on the Dutton land, but John's death casts a dark shadow over their hopes for a peaceful future. Casey joins Beth's quest for revenge against Jamie and enlists the help of his former Navy SEAL compatriot Cade McPherson. As Case is drawn deeper into this vendetta, Monica begins to fear it will irrevocably tear their family apart. Casey persuades the medical examiner to re-examine John's body, leading the police under Detective Dillard to officially reopen the case. Sarah Atwood grows increasingly concerned that she will be implicated in the murder, but she is then shockingly killed by assassins, ensuring her silence permanently. Cade subsequently helps Case track down his father's killer, the assassin Grant Horton. Instead of taking revenge, Case chooses to spare Horton's life but warns him to never approach his family again. Detective Dillard investigates both John's and Sarah's deaths and, while examining Market Equity's records and Sarah's property, realizes that Jamie stood to profit significantly from Market Equity's Yellowstone lease, thus establishing a motive for him to kill John to ensure the deal proceeded. As Detective Dillard closes in on connecting Jamie to John's death, Jamie seeks refuge with Christina, the mother of his child. She advises Jamie to publicly condemn Sarah, declare his unwavering love for his father, and vow to bring his father's killer to justice. Chief Thomas Rainwater and his right-hand man Mo continue their struggle to prevent the construction of a pipeline beneath their land. Unfortunately, their political rival Angela Blue Thunder successfully convinces her supporters that the pipeline will benefit their people, creating a schism within the Broken Rock Reservation. Mo leads a group to sabotage the materials intended for the pipeline's construction, thereby protecting the Broken Rock Reservation from what they see as its certain corruption. Back at the Dutton Ranch, circumstances worsen. Beth and Rip's adopted son Carter is cornered in a barn by a spooked horse. When Colby rushes to save him, Colby is tragically trampled to death. Everyone is devastated, particularly Teeter, casting a further pall over the already grieving Dutton Ranch. With a looming legal battle against Market Equities and a property tax bill that threatens to bankrupt them, Beth and Case reluctantly conclude that the only way to preserve their family's land is to begin selling it off incrementally. Rip enlists his old friend Travis to start selling the ranch's equipment and horses, earning them enough money to keep the ranch financially stable for another year. However, Case realizes that the only path to permanent salvation, ending their conflict with Market Equities and evading the crushing property taxes, is to sell the entire Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, essentially for its historical and cultural value rather than commercial. So Case and Beth broker a deal with Thomas Rainwater, selling him the entirety of the Yellowstone Dutton land. Both the Dutton family and the Broken Rock Reservation have deep ancestral ties to this land, and under Thomas's stewardship, he guarantees that this shared history will be perpetually honored. As part of the agreement, Case is permitted to retain his property on the land to live with Monica and Tate. With the Yellowstone land finally and permanently secured from predatory interests, the various family members and friends of John Dutton convene for an emotional funeral service. Beth then confronts Jamie, declaring that now that Broken Rock owns the land, he will never be able to seize it for himself. This leads to a violent altercation between the siblings, culminating with Beth finally killing her manipulative brother. Rip assists his wife in covering up the death by disposing of Jamie's body at the train station, adding one last victim to Yellowstone's violent legacy. In the end, the Broken Rock Reservation assumes control of the Yellowstone land. Although the iconic Dutton farmhouse is dismantled, Thomas and Mo honor their commitment to ensure the family's legacy endures. The various ranch hands disperse to forge their own futures, including Teeter, who accepts a job working for Travis in Texas. Case is at last liberated from the immense burden of the Dutton family legacy, free to live contentedly with his wife and son. And then there are Beth and Rip, who acquire their own property distant from Yellowstone, where they plan to live with Carter, deeply in love and poised for their next chapter.